right. Hey, welcome back. This is the Jeff Heggie Show, and I'm excited today to have my friends James McLamb here with me. Now, I'll give a brief introduction, but I'll let you get into it some more, James, and do yourself some justice. But James is the founder and CEO of Generation Youth, widely known as America's youth coach. I had the opportunity to meet James a couple of years ago, and it's turned into a great friendship. If you have been following me, you saw recently we had our conference, Igniting the Next Generation. That was James's brainchild, and it went awesome. And, a couple things. His presentation in that was outstanding, but also he's got a new book here, Tomorrow's Youth, Reaching a Hope Deferred Generation. And, reading that book and listening to him at our summit, I thought it would be a great idea to get him on here, talk about the things that he's doing and the impact he's having on the world, on the youth. And James, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate those kind words from a friend. That always means a lot when you know it comes from a friend. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. So just share with us a little more about your history and what got you to where you are now and what you're doing.
I've always had a passion and a desire to impact and work with youth. Even when I was in that age bracket, when I was a high schooler and college student, I just wanted to not just be a leader for it, but be a difference maker for my generation. So I was one of those nerdy self-development guys who was just everything from all these motivational speakers and inspirational books and personal development books. I wanted to read all that stuff and help, regurgitate it back to my peers. That led me to going into the classroom. I taught high school for almost a decade. I loved the impact that I was making in the classroom. I loved what I was doing there. When my oldest child was born, I went back to some of the family businesses so that my wife and I could afford for only one of us to work as we raised a family. And we raised 3 children during that time, but we still were poured into youth in a mighty way. We had a ministry team that we led and did work with youth on that. It was a youth ministry team, so the team was all youth as well. We taught youth classes at our church. I volunteered at camps. I spoke at youth conferences. I was still connecting with all that. And then almost a decade ago, I just felt a calling to kind of leave everything that I was doing behind business and focus totally on you. And I was blessed to be in a position that I could do that I could put that aside and focus on it. And so we created a program. The organization was originally called Generation Ziegler. And the reason it was called that is because we were taking the content and the teaching from the legendary motivational speaker, Zig Ziglar, who in his lifetime wrote over 30 books, spoke live to over 250 million people, 250 million people live. This was before streaming. This was before virtual stuff. People had to get in their vehicle, drive somewhere, probably buy a ticket and go into an arena or a coliseum to hear him. That's not going to be done. I mean, when people can get a viral video now and get that many views, but it's not the same. But we were taking his content and we were repackaging it for a new generation, because we really felt like the things that he was teaching on personal development and how you can succeed and building a solid foundation so that you can overcome the challenges that youth are facing were so applicable today. But it was a message that really had not been renewed since the 80s and 90s. So we wanted to repackage it and present it to youth in a positive way. And being able to name it Generation Ziegler not only emphasized that, but also gave us the ability to have the abbreviation of Gen Z, which we thought was really cool. Okay, look at us, Gen Z. We thought we were really smart on that. What we didn't realize is, hey, what happens for longevity when Gen Z is no longer the youth group? So we've rebranded to Generation Youth, And we've expanded not only working with young people to help impact them, but also to train people who want to be youth coaches, youth life coaches, whether or not they want to use those principles as a parent, as an educator, or an actual life coach. We're providing now certifications and trainings to help that generation of people. So that's our newest product that kind of arose out of the year or so of pandemic reset that the world had as we step back and realize, okay, how do we move forward to continue to make this impact? This certification program arisen. So that is what we have. Obviously, we have a podcast too, but and in conjunction with our program, but that's where we're at now. We have youth programming where we are teaching youth leadership skills, personal development skills, and our life coaching certification.
You know, what I love about the life coaching certification option that you have now is, you know, as Tammy and I work with athletes through the Confident Athlete program, we've had the opportunity to work with a lot of coaches, administration, different things, and seeing how many people really are engaged and really care about helping this next generation. And then as you helped us put this summit together, and the people that came together in that summit, every single one of them, that's what they're there for, is to help this next generation. And now to give people an avenue to understand really how to be that coach is really a great tool. So that's really, really awesome that you've developed that.
Well, Jeff, also, I went through a graduate program, a master's program in youth leadership, youth development leadership. And that was a 2-year program. It was a wonderful program through Clemson University. But during the entire time I was there, I was thinking there has to be a better way to give this content and information to people who desire it, that it does not take 2 years of their life and does not take thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get a degree, that can impact them immediately, that they can come in and have the resources, but also have a community that will support them going forward. And I hope that's what we provide at Generation Youth to our coaches that have come through, is a community that supports them and will help them in their journey. I mean, this week alone, I have 4 different calls with people who come through our program to help them get started or to continue what they're doing going forward. And that excites me to be able to sit down and have those conversations.
No, that is really awesome. Now, what I want to talk about, again, going to your book, and you know, this isn't a book that you just sat down one day and thought, you know, let's write a book real quick. There's a lot that's gone into this because of what you've been doing with your work over the last decade. So what I want to ask you, with the thousands of youth that you've worked with since you started doing this, what do you see as the biggest issues or problems facing the youth today?
You know, Jeff, that was the one question we asked. You know, we did interviews with over 2,500 youth and asked them, hey, what's the biggest problem facing you? And then we recorded those answers. They were very varied in their responses, but there were also clear categories that you could drop almost all the answers in. And there were a few specific answers that were related to their particular setting. You know, if they live in a certain area, they may be talking about that community, but most of them fell into one of 3 categories. And the one that was responded the most was, hey, we struggle with our identity. Who am I? Their self-image is the category that we put it in. Now, I rarely had someone say, hey, our generation is struggling with their self-image, but they talked about, we fear failure. We don't know who we are. We doubt ourselves. We don't believe in ourselves. You know, we're continually not living up to expectations. All of it could fall under that category of self-image. They don't know who they are. They doubt themselves. And that was, I think, almost 87% of all the respondents said that as part of one of their answers. The second biggest one was relationships. We don't know how to form effective relationships anymore. That's been exasperated really since I would say 2010, 2012, as the smartphone and social media has become more prevalent in their lives, that they are not connecting with their peers as much and in one-on-one basis. And so effective relationships are how do I connect with my peers? How do I choose friends wisely? How do I connect with my parents? How do I connect? What do I do? I mean, can you imagine if you got poor relationship skills and you're struggling with your self-image? That's somebody that's going to have some bullying problems in their life, most likely, and be very, very susceptible to peer pressure. And then the last one falls into the category of their ability to set goals in their life and accomplish their goals. And that kind of falls under the thing of purpose too. Why am I here? And what am I going to do with this? How do I accomplish this? It's not that these generations today are lazy. I know older generations tend to look at younger ones and say, hey, look, you folks are lazy. You're not working as hard as we did. A lot of it has to do is they just don't know how to start, or they don't know how to complete these things. Or even worse, they don't even know they can dream dreams to be better than the situation they're in. I mean, that's a sad indictment of their culture today, that what I wake up with is all that there is. Really? And so we created content on those 3 areas: self-image, relationships, and the ability to set goals for purpose.
If you don't mind, let's dive into these a little bit more.
Okay.
And obviously for someone that's really intrigued by this, the book, the coaching, the certification, all these things, we'll give that information and it'll be in the show notes and everything so that you can find out more. But let's start with the struggle with self-image. In a world right now, we're constantly comparing every day, nonstop, it seems like. So what are some of the things, how do you help in that situation?
You first need to understand, and we need to help them understand, that they are enough in life, that they were created just as they are, and that is enough for them. And that within that system of what they are, and how they're with their skills and their talents and everything that God has put together on them, that they can accomplish all the things they have. So they tend to look, through the aspect of social media and phones, and compare themselves to others, compare themselves in such a way. There's always been comparisons. I'm a child of the 80s, and we compared ourselves then, but how did you do it then? You looked at a magazine. You had to go somewhere, buy a magazine, or it had to be delivered to your house. You looked in the pages, you saw this model or something. You said, hey, I want to be like them. But you knew that was a model. You knew that was a celebrity that you were aspiring to be like. But now you're looking on social media and you're seeing someone who you think is in the same situation you are. And so there's so much comparison on this. I'm not enough compared to these others. So helping them understand they are enough, helping them to understand that what they're comparing themselves to is someone's best that they're putting online to their worst. Isn't that what they do? They look at their phone and they're like, oh my gosh, look at Joni. Joni's having such a great life. Look, they're at the beach all the time. And look, they got the finest clothes and stuff. You think Joni's putting her worst day online? You think she's putting that up on TikTok or on Instagram? No, she's putting her best. And you're looking at it, you're thinking about your worst. So we got to help them and begin with realize they're enough. And there's steps that we talk about in the book and we talk about in our training too. It's just some practical things of things that you guys do as well in your mindset journal and your confident athlete program as well. And one of the basic things is helping them have a gratitude list. I mean, that's a simple step, but it starts to put things in perspective. What What were you grateful for today? Listing their skills, their talents, their assessing what tools they have, listing out what they are good at. Oh, that's going to be a struggle to begin with. I'm good at nothing. Well, really? Nobody's good at nothing. Everybody's good at something. And then, listing those things out and little small things to help them move forward in life. Little baby steps that seem like they're not going to be effective. A gratitude list, how's that going to help? Will you do that consistently? It starts rewiring their mind. Gosh, there are some good things about my life. When you start thinking there's good things about your life, you start thinking there's some good things about you. And they just need that help.
It's amazing how much of a difference gratitude can make. And you're right. Mm-hmm. It's sometimes, there's, like you mentioned, my mindset journal. That's one of the questions I ask every day. What are you grateful for today? And there's days that I sit there thinking about that today and what really am I grateful for? But I remember my friend Nick Santonastaso, I was interviewing him once, and he talked about the importance of gratitude. And he says, I've talked to people about this before, and they say, there's nothing to be grateful for. And he says, look at me. I was born with no legs, one arm, and I find something to be grateful for every day. If I can do that, you can do that. And it's really your perspective, right? Because there is something to be grateful for every single day, whether it's the sun coming up or anything.
Well, we had someone on the summit that from the outward appearance would look like there's nothing that this man should be grateful for. Trinell Walker, high school freshman. He's 14 years old, has a promising football career. I mean, major schools were already looking at this freshman. This is going to be a star in 4 years. He was going places. 1 second, a hit, unfortunate hit, as he was tackling somebody. One of his teammates was trying for the same tackle, but they missed and hit him. He's paralyzed immediately from the neck down at 14. But yet, if you watched his thing, you'll see that is one of the most energetic and grateful and has just a life spirit because he's realized, hey, there's so much for me to be grateful for. And one of the things Trinell, I tell you, is he's just grateful for the chance to engage with people and help change their lives. And isn't that cool? That's something we all can be grateful for. Hey, I'm grateful for the opportunity to help someone along today. So,
yeah, his spirit's contagious. He's awesome. Yeah. All right, let's talk about poor relationship skills. Where do we help that? And especially in youth, that's such a hard thing. Like, I listened to my wife and daughter talking last night about these girl high school relationships, and I'm just like, this is tough.
I know my daughter came home from her first day of school yesterday and was very, very upset. For one, her two best friends their families had decided to send them to different schools. So she goes from 7th grade to 8th grade, and her two best friends are no longer there. Well, there were still girls in her group that she wanted to hang out with, and she was looking forward to that. And she got there, and those two girls were like, we just want to be friends with each other right now. You'll have to find someone else. And so she's like, comes home and she's distraught. Her first day, and it's not good. It's not good at all. But what's amazing is these are not new problems. I guess it's not amazing, but it's enlightening to see these are not new problems. We can see these problems, if you watch old television from the 50s, sitcoms will show you the same thing. Family sitcoms, they have the same problems, but they're just manifest themselves today. So you don't know how to engage with each other. Their relationship problems, like boy-girl relationships, the budding romantic relationships is totally different than it was in previous generations. I had a friend of mine call and said, hey, will you talk to my 14-year-old daughter, freshman in school? She's having relationship problems. She may have been 15. And I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not good. I don't want to get involved with this. But they were friends, and I told them I'll listen to the person and tell you what I hear. I don't want to get involved too much. Jeff, 2 minutes into talking with her, this relationship problem she was having with her boyfriend, I realized in 2 minutes, this was a virtual relationship only. She had never met this person face to face.
Wow.
Let that sink in, folks. That we have youth now who are struggling over relationships on people they've never seen face to face. It's not like it was in our generation, where you're passing notes in the back of the class, do you like me, yes or no? They're only texting or FaceTiming or snapping each other. And the problem with her is that she felt this boyfriend that she had never met face to face and had only encountered virtually was cheating on her. How do we deal with those kind of things? How do we teach them to find effective relationships through a virtual when people can do so much faking, catfishing online? It's a complicated issue, but it's still dropping back down to the core. How do you find good friends? Well, you need to identify what your characteristics are. You need to identify, how do I be a good friend? Don't go looking for a good friend. Become a good friend, and you'll attract those to you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, there's a reason our parents wanted us to hang around good kids, right? Mm-hmm. Who you spend your time with, who you surround yourself with really does matter.
And I know, and for young people, especially in school settings, friendships are really not as much by your likes or your interests as much as it is proximity. Proximity determines who your friends are more than anything else when you're young. If you're from a small rural town, you don't have a lot of options. Versus when you get into like a college setting where there's thousands of people, you may find folks that are more in line with who you are. So it is a struggle, because what if you're in an area and no one aligns with your values, your influences, and there's limited options? You still can be that good friend and start developing those characteristics, because we got to lay the right foundation. Remember, they're only going to be young. Our average lifespan now is up around 80. And they're only going to be young, maybe less than a fourth of that. So we got to build the right foundation.
Right. All right. Lack of purpose and the ability to set goals. One of the things I want you to touch on in here too is, what's the difference between dreams and goals?
Well, I think, dreams are your aspirations, your thoughts. I started to use the word dreams again. It's really you just listing out everything I would desire, I want to be, do, and have in life. Goals are when you start taking those dreams, maybe quantifying them, and putting a plan in effect to make them happen. And as doing that, so when you start quantifying, you might start realizing some of those dreams are just going to be fantasies. They're just going to be, not realistic. I'm 5'7". I wanted to be shortstop for the Atlanta Braves. That ain't gonna happen. That wasn't going to happen. But that was a dream when you were younger. But being able to do other things that I saw, I was able to set goals and do that. So that I could be, do, and have all that God intended for me. So it really different, I guess, between dreams and goals in some sense is the quantifying of, is this really mine, and is this really going to get me to where I want to go in, and help identify those. So, and goals is really developing a plan. I'm very much an advocate for Mr. Ziegler's 7-step goal setting plan. I'm not a big advocate of the SMART goal stuff, because I don't think it really identifies it to people very well, where his 7 steps really helps lay it out for you. And it's in the book for folks who want to see
laid
that.
out
And you can
really well in the book.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, you can find it anywhere. It's Mr. Ziegler stuff is all online. It's a good 7-step. There's a whole process before that to help you quantify it with other questions, but the 7 steps itself of identifying it, and it really does help youth focus and see that what they dream can be achievable. And that's the great thing about it. I mean, Mr. Ziegler says you talked about often that the process of setting goals is the journey getting there, not the destination, that is going to be the most benefit. And that's especially true for youth, because they're going to fail, they're going to succeed, they're going to learn, they're going to interact with people. Just that process of getting there. It's just a great journey for them. But most don't have that. Most don't have that ability to set goals on their own, or they're living out someone else's goals, their parents, their teachers, their coaches, and it's not theirs. That's a whole other issue there about we got to get of working.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. In the Confident Athlete program, that's one of the first thing I ask athletes is, most athletes that come into that program are, they're serious about their sport, they've got some talents and stuff. And I'll say, why did you start playing your sport in the beginning? And who are you playing for now? Because I've seen so many times that as they get better and better, all of a sudden the expectations of what they're supposed to be doing changes. And instead of playing because they love that sport and because it's so fun, they're playing because of the expectations of a coach or a parent or something else. And that's one of the things we, just like you talk about in this step, is what is your purpose? What is your why? Why are you playing? And I think that's so important for them to understand that and then tie their goals all together with it.
And those 3 areas are also so intertwined. You want to help someone with their self-esteem, well, give them a goal setting plan and let them see some achievement in their life. Then they're going to start feeling better about it. Well, they're not going to be able to have an effective goal setting plan and achieve those things unless they've formed some relationships to have people help them on the way. Well, they're not going to be able to form really effective relationships if they look in the mirror every day and say, I'm a failure, I'm a loser. So they're all 3 tied in together. I mean, there's not one less important than the other. Yes, the way that I list them is the way that the answers were given to us in percentages wise, but they're not in decreasing order of importance. They're all intertwined. You really cannot develop one effectively without working on another one as well. So it's a total process. And, you and I probably were very lucky that somewhere along the line, someone either intuitively knew this or had been taught it and then worked with us. For me, I had teachers in high school that I believe it was a little bit of both. They just had that sense of what needed to be successful, and they had been exposed to good content before, and they guided me along. They took little James that walked in as a 5'2" freshman, not even 100 pounds, soaking wet, who really thought he was bigger than he was and had attitude, but lacked the confidence to show the world what he had. I came in thinking I could do great things, but I'm too embarrassed to show the world that I can do great things. And they turned it around and said, we think you can, and we're going to show you how you can. And boom, it changed my life and changed perspective. And that's what I want to do for other youth.
And I think that's what's so important here with what you're doing, and especially with the certifications you're doing now, is really there are so many adults that can really impact the youth's lives. And, as you were talking about that, I was thinking, of course, my parents, but coaches, different teachers, different adults that were in my life as I was growing up and developing that had such a huge impact. And so obviously coming into the life coaching certification is the best step you can take to really understand where to go with this. But look, you mentioned a couple things during this our talking that really stood out to me. one, current generation doesn't lack motivation more than any other generation. It's just different now. And how do we look at that? And there's so many different things about these generations that we're like, well, back in our day, it was never, well, no, nothing was like this back in our day, everything, and nothing was like this the generation before us. And so as adults that want to help these youth, how do we make sure we can look past some of those things? Because the other thing that you said, and I don't remember if you've said it here or it was during the summit, that a lot of the problems and issues that they're dealing with are the exact same ones that have been dealt with forever. It's just from a different perspective, different circumstances. So how as leaders and adults do we work with this?
We need to remember this truth is that youth are just reacting to the world that we created for them. They didn't ask for this world. They didn't influence this world. They were born into it. They were thrust in it. And in a world that we really believed that we were creating that was going to do great things and make life easier, and technology does do that. But we didn't know all the pitfalls, the obstacles, the dangers. We just didn't know these things. And so we've thrown this upon them and expect them to have the cognitive ability to be able to judge what is harmful and what is not harmful. And it's just not possible. So we have to be intentional. We have to first say it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility for those who created it to help guide them through it, to help coach them through it. We can't just be mad when they are reacting to this world and it's causing problems. We can't be mad when we got kids who won't get off of Twitch watching video streaming. Well, we created this for them, and we didn't give them any guidelines. We can't get mad when we say they're on social media too young. Well, social media didn't say this is only for this level, and they never said it. Now, if you research some of the stuff, you'll realize some of the founders and owners and the chief executives of these different platforms will not let their own children, when they were young, own their own platform. That should be a key indication. Hey, I'm not going to let my kids own until they're at least 16 or 18. But your kids can come on my platform at age 10 because I need your money. So we got to remember that. They're just reacting to this. The core problem, self-image, relationships goes, it's not anything new. I tell this story quite often that when the pandemic started, my daughter was home from school when they had the shutdowns, we started getting up in the morning early and watching old family sitcoms. And the one that was on was Leave It to Beaver. And for those who don't know what Leave It to Beaver was, it was a family sitcom about two boys that were in elementary and middle school, eventually middle school and high school as the seasons progressed. And it aired from the late 50s to early 60s. What I realized real quickly watching these is the sitcom writers were writing episodes centered around the boys struggling with their self-image. Who am I? I'm a failure. I can't do this. I'm worthless on the team. I don't do well in school. Relationships. Who am I going to hang out with? This guy is bullying me. Am I going to fall to this peer pressure and do this? All those kinds of relationships and goals. Hey, I want to go into school and do this. I want to be on this team. Hey, I may want to go to college here. I want to go to this private school. There were some silly episodes, of course, hey, let's raise an alligator. I mean, that was ridiculous, but most of the episodes center around those three things. So these sitcom writers in the 50s, the problems that were go back to biblical times, read your Bible. It's the same problems. I mean, Moses had the lowest self-esteem of anybody we talk about in the Bible. He was not Charlton Heston, as you see in the Ten Commandments movie. He was a lot less than that. So these are eternal problems that we've had. They just manifest themselves differently now, and we've got to be proactive.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that, the next steps. And I will have all the links and everything in the show notes, but hopefully some parents, coaches, teachers, other adult leaders have listened to this and said, you know, I do want to take this to the next level. I want to understand how to coach these youth. Where do they go? How do they find out more about your programs?
Well, they can go to two locations that they can find out, but the main one is generation-youth.com. That's the landing page for our youth certification, generation-youth.com. And they'll find out the schedule that we have for upcoming certification classes. Ours are a little different in that we don't just provide you an online class that you go through on your own time and then you're certified. Ours are live classes, either in person or virtual. This next one that we'll have coming up, probably the next two that are coming up, will be virtual, so you can access them from anywhere. Our last class, we had them from Canada, Honduras, Africa, and all across the United States, from coast to coast. We had them all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast, and one of the Dakotas, and in Texas. So we had it, border to border. It may have been South Dakota, so I'm not sure exactly where she's from, but it was North or South Dakota, one of the Dakotas. So we've had them coast to coast, and border to border, and countries on these virtual ones. The virtual conference if you're interested in knowing, is 3 afternoons in subsequent days, Monday through Friday, in the afternoons, Eastern time, in which we'll pour into you. What is coaching? Why do you need coaching? What skill sets do you need? What mindset do you need? And then we will give you a process to do it. And that's what you'll leave with. You'll leave with a process, with content, with curriculum that works. We know it works. We've got case studies to prove to you that it works, that can get you started. And we can give you examples of people coming into our program who are parents who said, I don't know that I ever want to coach you, but if I can coach my kids, it's worth me coming. And former teachers who have come in, and it's college students who wanted to add this aspect to their life. A professional photographer who takes wedding pictures and graduation pictures and said, hey, when I'm taking these high school graduation pictures and I show them what I've taken, they're like, I don't believe that's me. I don't look that good. They need coaching going through. Ministers who have come through, veterans who work with youth have come through. We've had all different walks of life, business executives who've reached pinnacles of success in their life and now want to give back, have come to be able to do this. So we invite you to take a look at what it is. We'll have them at least 3 times a year. So there'll be one fall of 2023, and you go to that site, you'll see a schedule for future ones as well.
Okay, excellent. Hopefully those listening are like me right now thinking, yeah, I need to go check this out. So go check that out and find out more about the program. And then besides that, tell us where people can find you, follow you, and of course, find the book.
Well, you can find the book Tomorrow's Youth on Amazon, obviously. You can just type in Tomorrow's Youth and my name, and the search will come up. And you can purchase it there. Purchase a copy for yourself and maybe for your friends. It's both available on Kindle and on paperback as well. They can find Generation Ziegler, Generation Youth on all the major social media platforms. We're more on Facebook and Instagram than we are some of the others, but just because we don't have time to hit them all. So you can find us mostly on there. You can go to generation-youth.com to connect with us there. Our company website that contains everything, plus some free resources as well, if you would like to go there, is generationziegler.com. It's still under that URL, and will probably continue to be there for a while. So you can find us at that location as well. And there's a connect with me page. Of course, any of the social media channels, just message me. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to find out what your passion is for working with you, maybe some of the struggles that you have. And even if you're not interested in coaching, I'd love to be able to point you in the direction of some resources that might help. Because, this is too big of an issue, too big of a passion for me not to want to help you in any way that I can.
Well, awesome. And For sure. All the links, whether you're watching this or listening to this, will be below in the show notes. So make sure to go check those out. James, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Really appreciate our friendship and everything you're doing for the youth.
Well, thank you so much. And hey, folks, also make sure you guys check out the Confident Athlete. I want to put it, hype that as well as you guys are going forward, and connect with our conferences, the Igniting the Next Generation, as we do these summits a couple of times a year. It's free. And if you listen to all those things, you get, shouldn't be. Yeah, that's some high quality stuff in there.
Athletes put a lot of time, money, and effort into the physical aspect of their sport, but they often neglect the mental game. And the mental game, it's just as important as the physical. In fact, it's often the differentiating factor between good and great athletes. If you really want to reach your full potential, if you want to be a great athlete, you've got to pay attention to the mental game. Now, come and join us in the Confident Athlete program, where you're going to learn how to develop powerful mindset, extreme self-confidence, and really take your game to the next level. Come and check us out at confidentathleteprogram.com/membership. Are you ready to become the go-to expert in your industry? Take your business and your life to new heights? I'm Jeff Heggie, and I want to introduce you to the Entrepreneur Coaching Group. In the Entrepreneur Coaching Group, we're going to show you exactly how to do that. But just as important, in the Entrepreneur Coaching Group, you're going to mastermind with other like-minded high achievers that's going to help you to push yourself further, to hold you accountable, and to reach new heights. Come and check out the Entrepreneur Coaching Group at coachhaggie.com/entrepreneur. Og Mandino said that the difference between those who have failed and those who have succeeded lies in the difference of their habits. Good habits are the keys to success. Many of the habits that'll bring you success in life are easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. I developed the Mindset Journal so that I could easily implement powerful success habits into my daily routine. The power of the Mindset Journal comes from knowing your top priorities and scheduling them into your day. The power of the reticular activating system and its relationship to your goals, your mindset questions, and your daily accountability. So if you want to implement some quick and effective success habits into your daily routine, go to jeffhaggie.com/mindset journal and get yours today.